Hey everyone, welcome to our podcast. I'm Kyle Cleveland.
And I'm Reeves.
And today we'll be exploring baseball's decrease in popularity over recent years, as well as exploring ways to restore the popularity of the game. So as we talk about why baseball has fallen in terms of popularity, we'll split the contributing factors into two groups: societal factors and technological factors. So for societal factors, we'll look at how society has changed over time and from one generation to the next, and how that has impacted baseball. And then we'll also look at other societal factors such as economic factors, broadcasting factors, and other areas as well. And then when we look at technological factors that could have contributed to the fall of baseball, this could include failing to utilize new technology or failing to adapt in a changing technological landscape. Or this could simply just be other sports outperforming baseball from a tech perspective. So next, after that, we'll look at potential solutions to revive the popularity of the game, starting off by looking at how the rule changes implemented this season have affected the way the game is played, as well as its popularity. And then finally, we'll explore the interconnectedness of steroid use and professional baseball, looking at the history of steroid use in the MLB, and also exploring whether steroids could ever be condoned or even promoted in baseball.
Thinking about some of these factors, we'll be exploring them through the lens of topics that we've covered in this class. We'll be looking at how changes in society have an effect on sport, as well as how technoscience advancement has impacted different sports. We'll be looking at how changes in society have had an effect on sport, as well as how technoscience advancement can impact different sports. We'll also be exploring the struggle between innovation and tradition, and how baseball is a game rooted in tradition, perhaps more than any other American sport, which is very hard for those who have a passion for baseball to recognize when changes must be made. We've explored this struggle between modernization and tradition with other sports in class, and baseball is one of the best sports to observe this struggle. We also take an in-depth look at steroid use in baseball, similar to how we did with cycling, from ethical and health perspectives, as well as predicting how this would affect the way baseball is played and how athletes would perform. Another area we will be talking about is rule changes and the intended consequences of the rule, and what the actual outcome of the rule is, similar to how we have looked at rules for steroid use and gender testing in class. Overall, we'll be looking at the interaction between baseball, society, and technoscience, and how this has affected certain aspects of the sport, like popularity, similar to the way we did with sports like swimming, running, and cycling throughout the semester.
Alright, so let's dive into why baseball is losing popularity, particularly the societal reasons. So the first reason that we came up with was shortened attention spans, especially in younger generations. With the rise of social media, many of us have fallen into the trap of instant gratification, which sort of shortens our attention spans. And here we're defining attention span as the amount of time you can spend concentrating on tasks before getting distracted. So there's actually been an interesting study done on attention spans by Microsoft in 2015, which shows that from 2000 to 2015, the average attention span in humans decreased from 12 seconds to 8.25 seconds. So with an average attention span of 8.25 seconds, humans now have a lower attention span than that of a goldfish, which is 9 seconds. So attention spans are also even shorter in younger generations, as there's a trend that the younger you are, the shorter your attention span will be on average. And many experts attribute this decrease in attention span to be caused by the amount of information that humans have access to today. We have access to so much digital media because of smartphones, and social media allows us to rapidly move from one piece of content or information to another. And this trend of shortening attention spans doesn't allow many younger people to enjoy baseball when the average length of an MLB game is 3 hours and 3 minutes. So it kind of discourages a lot of people from attempting to get into the sport.
Building on that, another societal reason is accessibility of baseball for kids. Other sports, such as football, might be much easier for kids to play with limited money or space. Baseball has a lot of equipment that kids must use, such as bat, cleats, gloves, baseballs, and uniforms. The average cost of baseball equipment is approximately $615, making it the most expensive high school sport to play. This cost can also have a huge increase if a player wants to purchase a very high quality bat or glove, as this alone could be worth up to $600, and they would still have to buy other equipment on top of that. Another accessibility problem is that baseball requires multiple people to actually play. So, for example, other sports such as basketball are much easier to play pickup with strangers whenever you want, Whereas baseball, you have to have someone pitching, you have to have someone catching, batting, and fielders, as well as you need an outdoor space that's big enough to actually play. So it's much harder to play whenever you want compared to other sports. Another potential accessibility problem is broadcast blackouts. Unlike the NFL and NBA, which have nationally televised games, MLB games are broadcasted by regional networks a lot of times. And some of these regional networks will black out the areas of teams where they are. So for example, if you want to watch your local team, you might have to have a specific cable company or subscription in order to watch them. While this is meant to encourage in-person attendance to games and gives cable channels exclusive broadcasting rights, it potentially hurts the growth of baseball, as many fans won't be able to watch their favorite teams and players consistently unless they happen to be in the right region or have those specific subscriptions.
So now we'll move on to technoscience reasons for why baseball has lost popularity. So the first reason is that other sports like basketball and football have used technology to successfully modernize their games, while baseball has failed to do this. Basketball has taken advantage of technology like the shot clock to speed up the pace at which the game is played and prevent one team from holding the ball the entire time once they've taken a lead. And football is also successfully modernized by modernizing their equipment to increase the amount of padding that players wear with equipment like shoulder pads, and transitioning to more advanced helmets containing plastics and other synthetic materials instead of helmets made of leather. And then even looking at the rules of these games, the rules and strategies of baseball haven't been modernized nearly as much as other popular sports. For example, in basketball, major innovations include not having a jump ball after every scored basket, which was the original rule, the already mentioned addition of the shot clock, as well as the creation of the three-point line. And then in football, a major innovation was the creation of the forward pass, which made the quarterback the most important offensive player and changed football from a run-heavy to a pass-heavy game. And then many of these rule changes, strategy changes, and innovations from other sports were implemented to speed the game up and make it more exciting and enjoyable for the fans. So as a result, sports like basketball and football look very different 70 or 80 years ago compared to today, when on the other hand, if you watched a baseball game from the 1930s or 40s and then compared that to today, it would look pretty similar in terms of the equipment as well as the rules.
This sort of traditional thinking has affected not just baseball's rules, but also their social media presence outside of the game. Baseball generally only has a fraction of the followers of other sports such as NFL and NBA on social media platforms such as Instagram. The follower margin and lack of effort by the MLB to promote their league through social media could be due to the average age of baseball fans, which, according to a 2017 poll, says that the average age of an MLB fan is 57, which is up from 52 in 2005, while the average ages of NBA, NHL, and NFL fans are 42, 49, and 51 respectively. This makes MLB fans the oldest out of the Big Four, which is most likely the reason that they don't have a large social media presence. Another possibility is that other sports have more highlight plays that they can post about, while MLB can get sort of repetitive with their highlight plays. In sports like football, basketball, and hockey, many different types of great plays can be made, which can be then posted on social media. While baseball, there's only a limited amount of possibilities, such as home runs, great catches, and double or triple plays. These home runs happen every game, and so while they can be exciting, they can get repetitive, and other highlights are very rare to happen, and so it's hard to post about them consistently. Another downside to the MLB not having as much social media presence as other sports is that the average American doesn't know many of the best baseball players. Most Americans have at least heard of or could name a lot of NBA and NFL superstars like LeBron James, Stephen Curry, Patrick Mahomes, and Aaron Rodgers. But many Americans would find difficulty naming more than 2 or 3 star MLB players because other sports leagues have used social media to promote their stars, while MLB has failed to do this on such a large scale.
So now we'll move into possible technoscience solutions to revive the popularity of baseball. So first we'll start off by looking at the new rule changes for the 2023 season and seeing how they've affected baseball so far. So first we'll just explain the rule changes. So starting in the 2023 season, the MLB banned significant defensive shifts by putting rules in place that 2 infielders must be positioned on each side of second base and that all 4 infielders must be positioned in front of the outfield grass. Then the second rule change for this season was that a pitch clock was implemented. So the pitch clock is set to 15 seconds between pitches when the bases are empty, and 20 seconds if there are any runners on base. And pitchers are also limited to only 2 pickoff attempts per plate appearance. And then the last significant rule change this season was making the bases larger to create a shorter path between the bases and make it easier to steal. So these rule changes have the goal of increasing offense while also speeding up the pace of the game. So to look at how they've actually affected play this year, let's first look at the hitting stats. So we're going to be comparing spring training data from this season to last season, as we don't yet have enough regular season data to come to any significant conclusion. So overall batting average went from 233 in 2022 spring training to 249 in this year's spring training. And while overall batting average increased, there was especially a jump in batting average for ground balls that were pulled or went up the middle. And stolen bases also saw a significant increase, as success rate and volume of steals both nearly doubled from last year to this year's spring training. So now moving on to how pitching and defensive stats were affected. So pitchers who are historically fast between pitches have benefited from the rule changes, which is the expected outcome, while those who prefer to take their time between pitches have struggled. And the number of pitchers with innings of 30 or more pitches has also increased this season, as pitchers don't have the luxury or the time of being able to walk off the mound to compose themselves between pitches. So now we'll look at data for the average game time with and without the pitch clock. So spring training games this season were on average 26 minutes shorter compared to average spring training games in 2021 and 2022. And based on regular season data so far, games have been lasting an average of 2 hours and 38 minutes, which is down 26 minutes from last season when the average game lasted over 3 hours. So finally, we'll look at we'll compare average viewership of games from last season to this season, which has all the new rule changes. So MLB.TV has set several streaming records throughout the first part of the regular season, with opening day viewership up about 42% from last season. And MLB on Fox also saw their largest audience in a decade for an afternoon regular season game with 2.21 million viewers. And overall, MLB on Fox appears to be up 10% from last season, while ESPN has also seen a significant boost in their MLB broadcasts. And this is all pretty surprising when considering the fact that last season's World Series was one of the least watched on record, and overall ratings and viewership have been decreasing for any MLB content in recent years. And many experts believe that the rule changes have played a large factor in this uptick in viewership, as well as a carryover from the success of the World Baseball Classic, which took place shortly before the start of the 2023 regular season. So overall, it looks like the rules have had their desired effect in terms of the way the game is played, as well as the sport's popularity.
And while these rule changes are promising, it is possible that they won't be enough in the long run. Looking at more potential solutions, one possibility is to allow steroids and PEDs to be used. While many baseball fans might want to forget the steroid era of baseball, it may have ultimately saved the MLB. In the 1994 season, the players went on strike after the new collective bargaining agreement fell through. This resulted in the MLB commissioner canceling the rest of the season, which meant no playoffs and no World Series. When the 1995 season began, league-wide game attendance had dropped 12%, and it looked like the MLB could be in trouble. However, the next season, everything changed, because from 1996 to 2001, at least 12 batters each season hit 40 or more home runs. This caused MLB revenue to skyrocket and showed that the league still had massive growth potential. While fans loved more offense and home runs, this was in large part due to many superstars cheating through steroid use. This steroid-fueled increase in MLB popularity and attendance peaked with the 1998 home run chase between Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. Ultimately, baseball cracked down on steroid use, although it is likely many players still got away with it in later years. Potentially, a solution could be to bring back steroid use, and this could allow MLB to see more impressive athletic feats such as home run distance, pitching faster, and more athletic fielding plays. In the short term, it may help players in attendance. However, there are some obvious ethical issues involved with this, as in the long term, this could impact health of players, and players could try to take even more steroids than allowed, and this could lead to some fatalities. Also, fans might not support this, as it could be hard to get behind the fact that players might not have worked for their talent and rather just use steroids to get it. It also could create a large gap between MLB and lower leagues such as college and high school, because likely steroids won't be allowed to be used in these leagues. Overall, it seems like an extreme measure to try, but it could potentially result in increased viewership. We hope you have found some of our ideas insightful and interesting, and we thank you for listening to our podcast.